A bit of context, Khruangbin is made up of guitarist Mark Speer, drummer DJ Johnson, and bassist Laura Lee, and they all hail from the city of Houston, Texas. In fact, Mark and DJ actually met at they're playing in their local church band, this church being St. John's in Houston, which is famously the church of Beyonce, Solange, Kelly Rowland, Michelle Williams, etc. So it got me thinking, I feel you can kind of pinpoint a Houston sound. Like, it's a really diverse city, huge South American population, huge Southeast Asian population, African American, Mexican, I could go on. And I feel like Khruangbin definitely sound like, children of kind of Beyonce and Solange and all that, but also children of the melting pot that surrounds them in Houston. Like, it is music born from global influences, but passed through kind of a filter of Texas, if you want. So Speer and DJ, as I said, met at this church, and then Mark Speer and Laura Lee met at a friend's house where Mark Speer was watching a documentary on Afghan architecture, and then Laura Lee, as you do, Laura Lee came in. They exchanged numbers. They were excited by their shared interest in non-Western cultures and arts. And then the first text that Mark Speer actually sent to Laura was, "The universe smiles upon you," and she said that she knew immediately who it was who had texted her. So they started hanging out a lot. Laura Lee started playing bass as encouraged by Mark, and he eventually persuaded her to audition to play bass for a band he was in that was about to go on tour and open for Bonobo. So when they ended up coming back from that tour, the two of them realised that they wanted to start their own band together. So the Bonobo connection here is actually quite important, because after touring with Bonobo, the song A Calf Born in Winter, the Khruangbin song A Calf Born in Winter, appeared on Bonobo's Late Night Tales mix. And then Khruangbin ended up signing for Nighttime Stories, which is the label associated with the Late Night Tales series. So it's been going for almost 20 years now, that series, and obviously a real assortment of bands and artists that have done the compilations. Ollie, have you listened to Bonobo's one? Do you have a favourite song?
I have actually.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it's decent, man. Like, I can definitely get on board with that type of Bonobo thing rather than like a 2-hour mix of like really ambient mellow house. Do you know what I mean? I think when he's left to kind of pick and choose a few artists that he's interested in, that's probably more where I can get on board with it. But there's like Matthew Halsall and Dorothy Ashby on there that I thought were pretty cool. There's a nice Romer track as well. To be honest, I quite like those compilations. I'm not saying that they're not particularly unique. Like, there's quite a few different series that do the same thing. Like, I remember there's another one called Back to Mine, I think, that I quite like, because the idea of you going back to an artist's house or a record collection for after hours can be quite interesting. Because maybe you kind of start to pick up on, okay, well, maybe this is why they sound like this if they're interested in such and such. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, what do you think about Khruangbin being discovered in that way? Like, do you think it's quite in keeping with the band's aesthetic and sound that they would be discovered on a compilation mix of like a DJ? Like, it's a bit novel to see such an instrumental band be accepted into the mainstream at all, right?
Yeah, because it does. I find it interesting, for example, that them as a group have become, and like, excuse the middle-aged parent word, but they are really trendy.
Trendy in quite a bait way, perhaps.
Yeah, because there's other instrumental bands that are successful. I'm thinking like Mogwai, Explosions in the Sky, Public Service Broadcasting. But none of them seem to kind of generate as much hype or as much talk as Khruangbin do, and I think that's kind of refreshing for an instrumental band, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I would point out that obviously, like, Mogwai and Explosions in the Sky are like, obviously, on if you're talking about instrumental bands as a spectrum, they're definitely on one side compared to Khruangbin on the other. But no, you are right. It is quite a novelty, and it's nice in a way. I think their influences are so broad that maybe they kind of, I don't want to use the word transcend, but they don't seem like it. They don't feel like an instrumental band in the way that those kind of post-rock atmospheric bands do.
That's definitely true.